Here we are in iBistro. The customer has not yet logged in. They're being prompted for the user ID and PIN. One thing we notice is that there's a new link here for Y next to the login button. If they click on that link, they'll get a pop-up window explaining the benefits of the one-time login. So I'll leave that to your imagination, and we're going to log in. And once the customer is logged in, they go into My Account, and we'll see two new options, and these options only exist if the customer has logged in. So the first new one is Change My Contact Info, email or phone, and the second one is Change My Address, street, city, state, zip. We'll be demonstrating that today. So when the user clicks on that, they get a simple form prompting them for their new address information. So they would enter that on this window. And notice they don't need to enter in uppercase because the system will convert that for us. They can also choose to change their favorite library if they want to. Maybe that's changed since they joined the library system. So they could, select something different there, which is an optional field. And the library card number is already provided for them, and they hit send. At this point, they get a quick confirmation back saying, yes, your request has been submitted, and it will be processed in the next 3 business days. At this point, the customer has finished their request from their perspective, and they can go on to do their other searching in workflows. So now, the next part of this video will demonstrate how that request information gets processed by a staff member in workflows. Over in the Workflows client, notice under the Common Tasks grouping, we have a new wizard for Process Customer Request. And this is what we'll use to work those requests that were just submitted through iBistro. What I'm going to recommend is before you even go into this for the first time is mouse over the wizard name, do a right click, and select the properties. Because we want to set up our searching properties and set the defaults so they'll always stay that way. So the only one you want to change here is the service library. You want to make that your home agency. I'm logged in as a CL staff member, so I'm going to change that to Central. So now my request type is change of address, the status is new, and library is Central. If I click OK, it will save those. And when I close out of workflows at the end of the day, it will ask me if I want to save those changes. And I'll say yes, because then they'll take effect for all of my future sessions. Now, whenever I click on Process Customer Request, I'm presented with the search options, and notice all my defaults are correct. So at this point, all I need to do is click Search, and I'm presented with a list of the new change of address that have come in from the Central customers. And it takes the address from the user's login over in iBistro. So here they are in the order of the date placed, oldest one's first. And normally I would choose the first one because it is the oldest, but I'm going to choose this last one since that is what we just submitted through iBistro. So I select the request and I click Continue. And now I can see the information they submitted on the web form. And I just want to eyeball it and make sure it looks correct. There are no misspellings or anything like that, because we need to make sure if the customer is using the postal mail to get their notices that they do get them and they're so not rejected because of a bad address. So the address information looks good. At this point, I want to go over here under User Info, click the Modify User Wizard, and the current one is already selected, so I just need to click that. And I'm going to go to the Addresses tab. Now, hopefully you're all used to working in multiple windows mode, and we're going to come up here and click Window Vertical, and that will create the tiled desktop so that I can see both Modify User on the left and Process Request on the right. And now I can just simply take the information from the request and copy and paste it into the customer record. So I'm going to start with a street, just click on that, do a Control-C to copy it, and I come over into the Modify User and select the street, do a Control-V to paste. And I'll do the same thing with the city and state, Control-C to copy, and Control-V to paste, and finally the zip code, Control-C and Control-V. So I can click Modify User now, and that will save those changes we've made so far. And back on the request, I see that they want to change their home library. They were Central, now they would like to be Kempsville. So I'm going to say over here, Make More Changes, and I'm going to go to the Basic Info tab, and I'm going to change their library from Central to Kempsville. And once again, I click Modify User to save those changes. And now we can close, because that's all the changes we need to make to the user record. And at this point, I'm going to make that large again. So now, the only thing we need to do is click on this reply tab, and that will actually let us send a response back to the customer. So there are three things here we need to change. One is the status, change it from new to replied. We want to change the date replied to today. So use the radio button for a specific date. It will default to today, and we click OK. And let's make that big again. And the final thing we need to do here is just enter something, some basic reply. Your address has been updated. Something short and sweet. And now when you click modify, that will save all those changes and generate a response back to that particular customer. And if there are more requests in the list you want to work, then you can just use the next button, and that will bring you to the next request in the list, and you can just repeat the entire process over again. So that's how the request is processed through workflows. And the last part of this video will show us how the customer can see that response back in iBistro. And finally, back in iBistro, notice the customer is logged in. If they go under My Account and then Review My Account, we'll see something new here. Underneath their holds and charges, there's a new button called Requests and Library Messages. When they click on that button, they can see the information from the request. So here's the date they submitted it and the date the staff member worked it. And they also see the response back from the staff member. Your address has been updated. So this is just positive affirmation for them that their library record is correct. They can also see here the initial information that they submitted on the request. And if now they realize, oops, I made a mistake, I got the wrong street number, they can simply use a modify button right here, and that will let them resubmit the request. They don't need to type everything over again. They can just make the slight change they need and then resubmit that back to a staff member. So that is how the entire process works for the requests. And the final note is that all of the change of address requests that have been completed are deleted off of the system after 7 days automatically.